Batgirl Annual number 2, and you guys looked up how to say her name, so go on.
Mairghread is the Gaelic pronunciation, the original the pronunciation of that name.
Mairghread.
However,
Alright.
she has tweeted in the past that she goes by the Americanized saying of it, which is just Mairghread.
Mairghread.
Yes,
It rhymes with air, so Mairghread.
yes.
Mairghread. Alright, so the Batgirl Annual, also by Mairghread Scott,
There you go.
with art by Elena Casagrande, is a standalone story, but it's an interesting one. And while it is standalone, I feel like the ending is kind of hinting that this is set up for something down the line in the book.
Yeah.
It does feel like here's something that's going to come up later in the run.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is her brother, James Gordon Jr. There's a series of murders that are very weird, where all the victims died of a heart attack, but after the death were stabbed as if they were running from the attacker, and the blades
Right.
correspond. Babs does a whole detective vision thing where she can see them getting chased down and sliced and whatnot. And she's working with the cops, and she's looking into it, and then she realizes where she recognizes the murder scene from, the specific the way that the person died. It's a movie she used to watch as a kid. And by the way, if you want me to connect with Barbara Gordon anymore, telling me she grew up watching slasher movies with her dad, like, all right, okay.
I knew Pete was going to love this issue.
Me too.
Yeah, I was reading this on the bus home earlier, and I was like, okay, so you're telling me this is an issue about a slasher movie?
Mm-hmm.
Pete, this is Pete's issue of the week.
You don't know that yet.
Oh, I know that.
You don't know that yet.
Well,
So she basically realizes this is a James Gordon Jr. special. I specifically like the panel where she falls asleep researching, and she wakes up with like a bit of paper stuck to her cheek. That amuses me. I don't know. It's one of those little safe place moments. But we get this Hannibal Lecter-esque scene where she goes to see her brother at Blackgate. He's never allowed to be moved.
I like that he's in Blackgate, not Arkham, right?
Yeah, because
He's in actual prison.
Sure, he's crazy, but he's more of a traditional serial killer than a Gotham serial killer.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a case to be made that maybe he belongs in Arkham,
There's a case, yeah.
and maybe the system is failing him by just throwing him in Blackgate.
Yeah, because Arkham's doing such a good job with all their criminals.
In theory, I'm not saying Arkham's succeeding.
I think
Send
what I
him to
like
Iron
about-
Heights. I think Wolf would get a kick out of him.
Because you know what we were saying earlier on about Dick not having his thing, right?
Yeah.
About not having his villain. I like the idea that Babs' villains, the good ones, might be more like traditional like criminals, like serial killers and stuff, because you basically say, okay, she's more like it's a Silence of the Lambs, she's Khalees Starling, and she has her Hannibal Lecter brother, and she tackles those types of criminals. And it's not to say that she can't have the big super villains and stuff, because she does it sometimes, but I feel like James Gordon's by far been the most interesting of her villains, and I think not just because it's personal, but because there's this like real grisly nature to it.
Well, and it's intellect versus intellect.
Yes,
Right? They're
there
both
you
smart
go.
in different ways.
I think
Yeah.
it's a sense of genuine like evil, but it's relatable evil, right? It's a very real kind of evil.
And it's funny, as much as we talk about Batman being a detective, I feel like giving her the more straight up serial killer, this is a detective trying to outsmart a killer, she actually fits really well into that role, given her intelligence and whatnot. So it works. But so they have a bit of back and forth, and we find out he's got a bunch of love letters from crazy broads who like serial killers, because that's a thing.
Yeah.
And tries to like play on her memory, and she's not very happy about it. And obviously they recount a little bit of the history for anyone who doesn't know what he did in the past. And even brings up, I know you're Batgirl, and I didn't tell anyone. I don't want to torture you like that. I have my own ways to torture you. I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
Which I like, very evil. So she goes on the hunt, and I love that this scene where she comes and speaks to him is like half the issue. This has so many pages in this book.
It does, yeah.
Well, and you get their relationship throughout that, and it's like you can tell she still cares about her brother, but he's looking at her like, well, what does she want?
And she clearly doesn't want to. Like she really doesn't want to care, but she does.
No, but she can't help it because she's Barbara, But I just love their dichotomy.
But so she goes home with these letters, and she's trying to track down who might be the copycat, whoever this person is. One of his followers is probably the killer. And she drinks booze, which she doesn't normally do.
Right.
And I like her reasoning is that she deals with so much dark stuff that it would be really easy to always do this whenever something got really tough, and she doesn't want to rely on it, so she doesn't do it. But her
Right.
brother is just enough to push her over that edge.
It's family usually is the one that does it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's true. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that a ginger doesn't drink, but I mean, you know, I'll buy it from Babs.
I will say that
I don't
despite
know
being
what you're
straight edge,
talking about.
when my dad visits, that's the only time I wonder what alcohol tastes like. So
Yeah, so she checks out a couple of the potentials, and one's already like locked up for stabbing someone else, and so it couldn't have been her.
yeah, she is like legit crazy. Like
Straight jacket, blue hair, like
Yeah.
Joker looking smile, yeah.
Yeah.
Full on.
And then she gets to the second one, which was a bit. It reminded me of something in a David Fincher movie.
Oh, it was really depressing. But I actually
Yeah.
really like that this is something that ended with Barbara not being able to help her fix it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was really sad because this girl who's obsessed with her brother and talks about wanting to follow in his footsteps and so on. Turns out she's abused by her father. And he comes in and Babs ends up fighting him and she tries to stick up for her. But then the girl's like, no, get away, stop hitting my dad. And she like sticks up for her dad. And she's this victim who is trapped and doesn't want help.
Did you think it was actually a dad? Because I got the impression this was the boyfriend that he
sure.
makes call daddy.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's fair.
I
That's
just
how
want to
I
completely
took it.
change the context of this. If you know, and I want to know which way we're coming down on this.
Let me look at the dialogue again specifically where I got dad, because at one point she did call him daddy, right? I'm not.
She calls him daddy all the time, yeah. But I think that's what. But it's when he's like, oh, who the hell's James? Who's this other guy? And he's getting this jealous rage.
I guess I just took that as more the father who doesn't want his daughter near anyone, rather than.
Yeah. Well, no, I took it because it's a girl writing a serial killer. Like this is her twisted. That's
Oh, sure. No, that's fair. That's fair.
There's also a bit in Babs's narration. She puts "daddy" in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. That's something I just skimmed past there and didn't really think much about.
Well, and that was in the letter too that she's reading from this character. Where is she?
Earlier on with all the other little bits.
Yeah, it's the first one says hurt so bad, Daddy, but puppy remembers. So there's more going on there than.
Like this is unhealthy as shit, and there's this really sadness to it where Barbara just kind of has to leave, and she can't really help or fix it because she doesn't want help, and it's the idea that she's abused so much that she's seeking solace in her serial killer brother, right? That's how bad she's messed up by this, and she loses her shit. She throws her laptop across the screen, across the panel, I should say. What I will say, if I have a critique about this moment where she gets really angry and throws the laptop away, is that I feel like seeing her in socks undermines her pain in the next page.
Why?
But it's just the way she's kicking her legs up and she's got socks on. I feel like socks. Okay, this is a weird thing, alright? But as someone who typically doesn't walk around in just socks, right?
Yes, we know Stuart's rage.
Yes, you know this about me. I don't like doing it. She looks too comfortable.
No, she looks like she's at home.
Yeah.
How often do we watch, or not watch? How often do we see in comic books characters walking around in their socks?
Yeah, but that's why
Probably
it
not
stands out.
enough. That's the point. She's
Like,
at home. She's sat on the sofa.
If she was wearing her boots still, I
If
could
she was
see what you're
wearing
talking
shoes
about.
up on the sofa, I'd be questioning what's wrong with her. Most people don't feel a
Slippers.
need to wear shoes at
Look,
all times.
Slippers, house shoes,
What
that
I'm,
type of
what
stuff.
I'm saying is that panel where she's holding her hands up to her face, she looks like a kid. I'm seeing a child kicking and screaming. That's what I'm saying.
This is only a degree better than the cross issue.
I'm just saying, she looks more like she's a 12-year-old kicking and screaming because she's not getting her way in that panel.
Yo,
I mean,
how you guys act when you get frustrated? Because I kick and scream.
I can see Matt doing it, admittedly.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is I've not walked about in my socks since I was a kid, so this feels like a really kid thing to
I
me.
walk by in my socks all the time because otherwise your feet get cold.
Look,
I don't like wearing shoes.
I admit this is weird. I admit this is more just me than it is the book itself. But to me, this looks like a kid who's kicking and screaming.
I mean, I could make a devil's devil's advocate argument that maybe that was the point, is to show that how James and her regressed into childhood.
Okay, all right.
She's like,
I,
I don't believe it, but I could make that argument if I wanted to.
I do agree that she might look a little young in that particular panel, but I think it's to do with just the facial, the little bit of the face that you can see more than anything. I don't think the socks have anything to do with it.
I think it's
The pose itself, maybe.
The artist just doesn't like drawing toes.
No, look, I'm maybe focusing too much on the socks for the joke here, but I do think the way the legs are up in the air feels more kid-like.
That's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like an adult who's frustrated kicks the legs up in the air like that.
So my main issue comes with the reveal on who's been doing this.
Okay.
Just as I feel like it wasn't set up enough. It is really it's not really a Deus Ex Machina, but it is just kind of like, I still don't understand.
I mean,
why.
I don't think you could say it wasn't set up enough, just because I don't feel like no outcome was set up. I don't think, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the main problem. I just feel like if the girl that it when you find out, so she goes to the last one and then she works at a hospital, right? She's a doctor.
Yeah, no, that was
She
the
used
thing.
to.
It wasn't any of the letters because
Yeah,
James would respect anyone who's been writing the
Yeah.
letters like this. So it was someone who was visiting him in person.
right. So, and then it was just like, oh well, James found me. You know, and it says pick me out. Wait,
I think to play just the other side here, Matt, you're saying, oh no, it's not set up.
all right.
I agree. I think this is the setup. I think this is the setup
For later.
in the run.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
it feels like
I
to
just-
me.
Itself. Yeah.
Yeah, so for the standalone, it was just kind of like out of left field. Like it was this girl, and then I'm still not quite sure. Like, so did James piece together that this girl was doing all this killing through the obituaries? Like, I didn't know obituaries were that detailed. That's what I'm not following. How James found her.
I'd have to go back and read
That's
that.
fair. It does say, he picked up on me through the obituaries. I wonder if it was, people that were close to her, or people that she knew, and he saw
Yeah,
that he
maybe.
recognized the pattern.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
he reached out to her, but again, that might all just be. But for just like for something that I felt was meant to be standalone, this just came out of left field, But I still enjoyed the rest of the story. Like it didn't kill the story for me, especially for what it means with James, because it feels like he's now attracting these types, and he's almost he can do as much chaos as he can from a jail cell.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's it. That
No.
ending page is him
Yeah.
going and sitting down and writing a letter to someone else, going, "Hey, I know what you're doing.
Yeah,
I'm here to help."
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's him being a counselor for serial killers to teach them how to be better at it, which is really sick. And she even admits she's probably going to come back and visit him. It's funny actually. I was saying earlier how that panel next to the couch, she looks really young. I think she looks the oldest I've seen her in a long time in those last few pages when she's visiting him again. She's wearing like a suit,
Yeah.
and she looks like
Yeah.
she looks like closer to
He's
30
aged up.
at this point.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that is maybe the part of the point is that
Yeah.
she I said she regressed a bit. She was young. She was like but then by the end it's like no, she's been forced to grow up and like okay, no,
Yeah.
she's got to deal with this.
She's
as an
holding
adult.
strong. She's putting on a front of strength for
Oh.
when she's going to see him.
Yeah.
So far through these issues, I'm really confident in Scott having a really good run on Barbara.
Yeah.
Like I like her take on the character so far. Like nothing feels like a regression because you never want that from creator to creator. Like you're taking steps back.
yeah.
This feels
But,
like the same Barbara, just advanced a little more.
Yeah, and that regression is often an easy step to take. Just
Yeah.
kind of revert
Yeah.
to the last safe spot for the character.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad she's not doing that. No, that's a good point. What do you think of the art by Casagrande?
It reminds me a lot of Riley Rossimo, just more clean. Like it rides this line. It's as I call it, it's not art for everyone. Like if someone's like I didn't like the way it looked, I totally understand.
I thought it was fairly solid. There was a couple of panels here or there where I thought the mouths looked a little bit too small and thin, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They looked just almost like just a couple of lines, and it felt a little bit off to
That's
me.
fair. I think I preferred it to the art in the Batgirl issue, the regular issue.
Okay.
No, I prefer Pelletier.
And I will say I think having Bel Air on the colors really helped kind of tie the two together, giving it a consistent palette. So it still
Yeah.
feels like it's part of the same, cohesive story, even though this isn't the next part. It still feels like part of that run.
Yeah, I mean it is part of the. I have no doubts that this James Gordon stuff's going to be
but
important
it's
later.
not part of the grotesque story.
Yeah,
But it still feels cohesive
Right.
with that story as a whole.
Yeah, I mean they might put us at the start of the first trade of Mairghread stuff, or they might hold it until we get to the James Gordon Jr. story and just put the annual in at the start of that.
Or put it at the end of the first trade potentially.
Yeah. The reason why I'd say maybe not to that is because she still has her old suit. This might be set before it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's turn edit,
but it's still priming for whatever's coming next.
Yeah.
So.
I think it depends if we're getting the James stuff next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Matt, what are you giving the Batgirl annual?
This was an 8. I do love the James and Barbara stuff, and I just there's little stuff a little weaker, but I think as a whole I enjoyed the issue more.
Cool, Connor.
Yeah, 8 as well. I think it's really solid, but the James stuff gives it an extra edge.
8.5. There's one step above. Yeah.
But it was based on a slasher movie. Of course, he loved it.
Yeah, I mean, the art dipped here or there, but overall, I like the look of it. I love the James stuff. I like the fact that the middle girl, the middle suspect, was such a dark, sad kind of story that she couldn't really help with, and she just kind of had to accept that and leave. I like that. It was like, no, you can't fix everything. And that goes back and again to Barbara dealing with more real horrors, real things. She can't fix everything. So I like that.